What is up, everybody? It is week 8 of the UFL season. Believe it or not, we've only got 3 more regular season games before the postseason, and the Stallions are looking to stay undefeated as they move into that home stretch. We're going to talk about their game against the Houston Roughnecks that's going to take place tonight on Saturday, and some little bit more about what's going on around the UFL and with the Stallions. This is State of the Stallions. Thanks for tuning in.
Here we go. Giddy up on 3. 1, 2, 3. Giddy up.
You can feel the buzz when you're around this city. People have fallen in love with the Birmingham Stallions. Here we go. We're getting a little juice going.
USFL championship.
So first of all, I apologize for kind of the last minute putting this podcast out. It's kind of been a crazy week, and wanted to at least get a short episode out there previewing tonight's game against the Houston Roughnecks. A lot of people have been saying that this is sort of a meaningless game, that it doesn't matter anymore because we already know who's going to be in the playoffs and that sort of thing. But I beg to differ, because the Houston team has had our number since the USFL came back in 2022. I think most people are aware that the Stallions have only lost 3 games in the past 3 years, and 2 of those losses came to Houston when they were in the form of the Gamblers back in 2022 and 2023. Houston is the only team that we have never swept in a season as the Stallions, again, going back to 2022. Every year we've split with them. And so this year we have the first chance ever to sweep them in a season, which would be huge. Which would be huge for the Stallions, I think, and for the brand and the culture to assert our dominance over the one opponent that sort of had our number. As far as my keys for tonight's game, there's really 3 things I think we need to try and do. Number 1, and most importantly, is we can't sleep on this Roughnecks team. Obviously, again, like I just said, it's not a meaningless game, but it's easy to be lulled into thinking that it is. The Stallions know they're going to be in the postseason. They know who their opponent's going to be. They know where the game's going to be at. There's not necessarily a lot to play for outside of your own internal motivation. Luckily, I think the Stallions culture is very strong. Skip Holtz has inculcated in these guys a 1-0 mindset where it's all about just doing your job and winning the game that you're in, being present, not looking ahead to the future, not looking back to the past. And I think that's going to go a long way to tonight, getting the W. But that's going to be tested because, again, we don't necessarily, again, on paper, have a lot to play for. But this is a good Roughnecks team. Obviously, they've only won 1 game, which would lead you to think otherwise. But, I mean, even last week, they should have won. They sort of just blew it at the end against San Antonio, and they could very easily have won multiple more games than they have thus far. They've got obviously a great running back in Mark Thompson, a fantastic defense and front 7. So it's a team that is capable of beating us. I know on paper, it doesn't look like that. Obviously, based on our first matchup, it doesn't look like that. But if the Stallions don't come out and take care of business, it could be a big upset. So the Stallions have to show up and play tonight. That's really what it boils down to. The second key, though, I would say, is that we need to put the special back in special teams. Last week was really rough for our special teams units. We had a missed field goal by Ramiz Ahmed. We had a blocked punt off Drew Chrisman, and we had a muffed punt return inside the 10 by Isaiah Zuber that led to a St. Louis touchdown. So those were 3 huge plays that thankfully didn't end up swinging the outcome of the game, but easily maybe could have if things had gone differently. And so would love to see Ahmed go 100% on field goals today. Would love to see Chrisman, get off some great punts if we have to punt, obviously without any blocks or anything like that. And Amari Rogers will be back, our normal punt returner, back this week, returning punts. So I'd love to see him kind of pick up where he left off. He's the number 1 punt returner in the league right now, has more yards than anyone else. Would love to see him, pick up where he left off and get back into the swing of things now that he is healthy. And so that's one thing that I'm really going to be watching tonight, is to see how our special teams play and how they respond after a difficult week against St. Louis. And then my third key to the game, which again is not necessarily something that we can control, but I think it's really important, is to stay healthy. The Stallions heading into that game against St. Louis were really banged up, especially on the defensive side of the ball. We had several guys miss the game, like DeMarcus Gates, Lorenzo Burns, Amari Rodgers, who I just mentioned, and some others. And luckily, this week we've actually gotten really healthy. I think other than the guys that are on IR, everyone is good to go and ready to play. So that's huge. And again, as we enter this home stretch of the season where we do have a couple final regular season games that aren't meaningless games that do matter, that is an opportunity for these guys to get tape, to continue their success this season. You also don't want to lose a guy in week 9 or 10 in a game that isn't going to necessarily have an impact on the postseason for the rest of the year when those big postseason games are coming up. So hopefully we can get a good rotation of guys in. We can kind of keep their load to a minimum and keep guys healthy, because I do think that is important heading down into this home stretch. Again, accidents happen, injuries happen. That's part of the game. You can't avoid that. You can't control that. You can't play afraid of that. But as much as possible, I'd love to see us do what we can to sort of mitigate any injuries to the team. So those are my 3 keys for the game. And I'm not going to do the sort of full-blown roster report and roundup like I normally do, again, because of the short notice with this episode. I'm going to try and keep it short here. So I'm just going to mention a couple quick highlights related to those things. As far as the roster report for this week, there's actually very minimal movement. We didn't sign any players. We didn't release any players. Nobody came off of IR. Everyone's healthy. Again, other than the guys that are on IR. So we've really got our full roster available to us this week. The depth chart is out. A couple things to note about that just I thought were interesting. Number one is that CJ Marable is inactive this week. As far as I know, he's not injured. He doesn't have any personal reasons or anything like that. As far as I know, he's just been inactivated. And Larry Roundtree III has been activated, so it'll be great to get to see him for a second time this year. He had a great game the first time he played, and so really excited to see him again as he's backing up Ricky Person Jr. today. Otherwise, on the offense, pretty much everything as you would expect. On the defense side of the ball, interestingly enough, Carlos Davis is inactive this week. Again, as far as I know, he is healthy. I don't know if it has something to do with the 2 personal fouls that he got in last week's game that in both instances led to points for the Battlehawks. It could be related to that. That's speculation. I don't know that that's true at all. That's just me kind of off the top of my head, just kind of thinking out loud. It could have just been, he had to miss some practice this week. It could be other things going on. Who knows? But for whatever the case, he will be inactive this week, and DeMarcus Mitchell will be active again, and he can wreak havoc off the edge. So excited to see him out there. Although, of course, we will miss Carlos Davis for sure. DeMarcus Gates will be healthy and active again, so it'll be great to have him back alongside Kiava Tizino, who I wrote an article about this week. It was on UFL Newsroom or Pro Football Newsroom. If you search that or go to my socials, you can find that article just about what Kiava Tizino has meant to this team. So definitely check that out if you haven't had the chance. Lorenzo Burns is healthy again and active, which is great to see after he was removed from the field a couple weeks ago on an ambulance. And so he will be in this game, which will be great. Mark Gilbert, interestingly enough, will be inactive. So he's going to have the week off. And then, as I mentioned, Amari Rodgers is healthy and active again and will be returning punts in addition to playing wide receiver. So on the special teams angle, there's that. So we've got everybody. We're healthy. Should be a great game. Should be a great group of guys that are going to take the field. So certainly looking forward to that. But outside of that, no real major roster news to be aware of. As far as the roundup, so just some things across the UFL that you need to know. I'm not going to hit everything, but again, I'm just going to kind of hit the highlights this week, just the things that you must know. Again, the game will be tonight at 7 p.m., Protective Stadium. Tailgating starts at 2 p.m. When the green lot opens. The Horsemen are going to be out there. They've actually got free Buffalo Wild Wings this time, so definitely pull up to that. Get you some free B-dubs. Get the vibes around the stadium. The weather, I know there's a chance of rain, but it looks like it's kind of been diminishing, so hopefully that'll hold off and it'll be a nice night. Definitely, if you haven't got your tickets yet, go ahead and get those. You can get a free camouflage Stallions hat if you buy through the link that the team put out, because this is Hats Off to Heroes night, so they will be honoring police and military and firefighters and so on and so forth. So get you a hat if you want to snag one of those. And they're going to be doing some things at the game. Like I know they're going to have the second annual policemen versus firefighters dodgeball game at halftime. So it should be a great game, great atmosphere, and definitely want to continue to come out and support these guys as they finish out the season. A couple things to know. Number one, earlier this week, I got the chance to do an interview on WCOV Fox 20 out of Montgomery on their sports show called The Score about the Stallions. So it's on their YouTube page and their socials. I try to reshare it and post it. I'll try and post it, maybe to my YouTube channel or something like that. But if you haven't seen that, definitely check that out. It's been great getting the chance to promote the Stallions across some local traditional media outlets, and so show them some love if you haven't got the chance to for the attention that they're putting on to the Stallions. And then a couple things related to some games that would be good for you to know. Number one is that week 10, when the Stallions play the Panthers at home, that game was supposed to be scheduled for 11 a.m. Central Time. It has been moved to 1 p.m. Central Time. So Caitlin Clark is going to be on ESPN at 11 a.m. that day. So they went ahead and bumped the Stallions game down. So just get advance notice here that game is going to be at 1 o'clock, not at 11 o'clock. So make sure you make plans to come out for that one. And then the following week will be the USFL Conference Championship game, which will also be against the Michigan Panthers. And it is confirmed it will also be at Protective Stadium. So there was some question about where that game would be if Michigan happened to win out and the Stallions lost out, or if the Stallions lost to Michigan in that Week 10 game and Michigan won out. And the Stallions lost another game along the way. Like, there were some scenarios where Michigan could potentially be the 1 seed, but obviously those aren't super likely. And even if they are, there's an event taking place at Ford Field that weekend, and so Michigan is unable to host that game regardless. And so the league has just come out and said that no matter what, that game will be held at Protective Stadium. So start making your plans now. You can put in a deposit for tickets to that game. I don't think they've started to sell actual tickets, seats, but you can put in a deposit to secure your tickets, to make your reservation. So definitely go ahead and do that. Get you locked in for that playoff matchup. We need a huge crowd there supporting the Stallions. It's going to be kind of a weird thing because they're going to play Michigan in week 10 at home. Then they're going to turn around and play Michigan again in week 11 at home. So it's always difficult to beat a team multiple times in a season, nevertheless 3 times in a season. And it's always really weird and difficult to try and beat a team back-to-back weeks, again, at the same venue. It's just a strange dynamic. So certainly we'll be interested to see how the Stallions approach that. But what I do know is that we need everybody there for that playoff game and for that Week 10 matchup to support the Stallions, to hype up the team, to get them ready to hopefully send them on to the championship game in St. Louis in mid-June. So just, again, make note of that. Go ahead and get your deposit in and plan to be there for that playoff game against the Michigan Panthers. So that's the big news that you need to know. We'll try and get you caught up on some other things maybe that we missed next week when we do this. But I wanted to put out a quick episode, just get everybody ready for this game tonight. Make sure you tune in on ESPN2 if you can't make it in person at 7 o'clock Central Time, 8 o'clock Eastern. Or, again, hopefully we'll see you at Protective Stadium to support the Stallions as they look to go 8-0 and keep their win streak alive, moving to 15 straight wins, the longest winning streak in professional football right now out there. So hope to see you there. Hopefully you get to be there in person or tune in, and hopefully we get that W. Giddy up.